In the subgroups in the wild video, earlier in the tutorial, we already covered one of the main variations in AUXes, which is the ability to flip the functionality of the subgroups and the AUX sends. But there are many more variations. Here, we see a common double-up. On this Mackie, there are actually 6 AUX buses. And in the master section, we do have 6 auxiliary send masters, but only 4 local send knobs per channel. So what's up with that? Well, while the AUX 1 and 2 have dedicated knobs, AUXes 3 and 4 share with 5 and 6. There is a shift button, which alternates between the two pair. Thus, every channel can be in 1 and 2, but some will be assigned to AUXes 3 and 4, and others assigned to 5 and 6 via the shift button as needed. This does save vertical space on the console, but it requires a little bit of pre-planning for large mixes or Q feeds. And by the way, this isn't just a Mackie thing. The SSL AWS 900 and all of its variations use the same concept. In this case, you're actually looking at 16 AUX sends. This is the Amek Rembrandt. Each is a dual concentric knob, meaning that it has a top portion and a bottom portion stacked vertically on top of each other. Sends 1 and 2 and 5 and 6 are configured as stereo pairs, with the pan control on the bottom. Sends 3, 4, 7, and 8 are mono, with the odd send on top and the even send on the bottom. Then, the shift control is available via the console's computer, which bumps up the output by 8 channels. And this means that AUX 1 can output to AUX masters 1 and 2 or 9 and 10. AUXes 3 and 4 can send to 3 and 4 or 11 and 12, etc. And that's a lot of control in a tiny amount of space. We saw this Mackie 1402 before, but one of the clever designs that's inside of this little console is that the return of auxiliary 2, which is hardwired post-fader for effects, can be routed into the AUX 1 send, which is pre-fader for monitors by default. This means that during a live show, if you add some reverb or delay on AUX 2, you can send that effect back to the stage monitors so that the band can hear how wonderful you are making them sound. The odd thing about it, though, is that you have to plug the AUX 2 return back into AUX 1 return, which is really kind of freaky, but whatever. Is that it? Well, no, of course not. Back on the Rembrandt, you can see an interesting twist on the send master. Here, with the ability to sum 2 AUXes together before sending them out. In this instance, AUX 1 has been linked to AUX 5. And this means that AUX 5 will now output a blend of AUX 5 and AUX 1, where the output of AUX 1 will be just AUX 1. And finally, let's take a look at a mock-up of a generic SSL console's auxiliaries. At the top section is a stereo auxiliary called Q, which indicates that it's probably meant as a headphone monitor feed. Below it are 6 standard mono AUXes. They are post-fader by default, with pre-fader buttons at the bottom of the module. As you can see, the AUXes are altered in pairs, with the stereo Q having its own switch. On each AUX and Q is a button labeled SF, which stands for small fader. Essentially, this chooses the monitor path or the channel path as a tap source for the send. Since the faders can be flipped to either path as well, labeling the button in this way makes a lot of sense. But the real reason I'm showing you these auxiliaries is the last button on each send, the Effects button. Pressing this disconnects the local AUX send from the AUX bus and changes its function to feed the multitrack matrix. This means that you can use some or all of the multitrack buses as effect sends if you would like. And given that most large consoles have between 24 and 48 track buses, that's a lot of effects. And of course, to keep these effects available to whatever channel insert, auxiliary, or track bus needs them, And to prevent you from having to hang out with the dust bunnies behind your console, you should consider a patch bay. And that is what we talk about next.